Hello, this is Giselle Gamby from the Intuitive Pull podcast. We are now in season 5 as we are on the home run for 2024. The next episodes will be daily episodes until the 31st of December 2024, all dedicated to you coming to full and complete resolution around the places within you and the places in your life that are unresolved. I was driving home from the shops on Sunday. I was just by myself. And I felt this note to self wanting to be written. And that's been happening quite often now when I'm actually not able to physically write or type it into my computer. And so what I do is I put my phone on to notes, and then I press the microphone button and it records my voice but transcribes what I'm saying out. And it was a note to self that was partly me speaking from me and also me hearing some answers. And what I was hearing, and it was really interesting energy because when it was coming through my voice was quite shouty, like as if I was really meant to hear this. And what I was hearing was, once you have fully faced into yourself, once you are no longer in denial, half-truths, withholds, because of the consequences you might perceive to be fearful of that, and you have come through to the other side such that there's emptiness in this vessel, it's not clogged up with resistance, and there's freedom within this vessel. Well, in a very shouty way, I heard, now you are orientating from the state of trust, faith, and grace. This is the orientation from which you are to live from. This is the orientation from which you are to live and lead from. Firmly, shouty. I'll say that again. Once the vessel is clear, once you are in integrity and in alignment with yourself, and your human vessel is not clogged up with denials, resistances, withholds, and half-truths because you have faced into yourself. And the consequence of facing into yourself is one of much more joy than you could actually even imagine. Renewed energy, much more renewed energy than you could even imagine. Now is the time to firmly orientate from the state of being of trust, faith, and grace. Because we are no longer resolving. Once again, in a conversation yesterday, it was in the masterclass, and I was with somebody who in 2002, she and I were participants in the same program. It was the program where it was the life-changing program for me that really had me take responsibility for my life and really did change my life. And the same thing with her. And I said to her, do you remember in 2002 when we were talking about, or we were learning about, I should say, about the difference between resolving and creating? And back then we talked about when we were resolving tension from our belief systems, our fear-based belief systems like unlovability and unworthiness. One of the ways that we can resolve the tension there is to become the helper and the fixer and the rescuer and be needed and loved. And that's how we believe we'll get our sense of lovability and place in the world. And yet there's no cheese up that tunnel. Well, it seems that now, 22 years on, I am integrating that paradigm of creating versus resolving more deeply. So in this series, when we're talking about bringing resolution to the places within ourselves that have not come to completion, I have a feeling that for those who are being part of this series, that we're not talking about bringing into the light the ways in which we've resolved our uncomfortabilities, our fear-based belief systems. I don't believe I'm talking to you in the same place that I was 22 years ago. It's not like as if you're having your very first wake up call. I believe that if you're part of this conversation, you're already awake. And now we're talking about what we're resolving, but in a much more subtle way, in how the ego wants to protect ourselves in a much more subtle way. And so therefore the ego defends and cajoles and uses words in order to protect ourselves, because the ego is afraid of us fully fronting up, because the ego has made up stories of what the consequences of that might be. And the ego believes that those consequences are scary. So the reason why we're being asked to bring complete resolution to the places in which have been held in resistance, even subtly, is because we are being asked to have a fundamental shift in identity from who we were to who we are becoming. And because we're being asked to play in the realm of our creative selves. We're being asked to play at the level of creation rather than at the level of resolving our uncomfortabilities, whether that's the need for perfection, whether that's the need for validation, whether that's doing things in order to finally feel good enough. This is what wants to be put to bed so that we can firmly orientate in the paradigm of trust, faith, and grace, because our focus and our energy is geared to the creational space. How can we be of service from this renewed identity? And it's really that black and white. I remember talking on the podcast last year. Was it last year? Yes, last year. I think it was about May last year. And the conversation that I was receiving was, again, very shouty. We are either creating abundance in all the areas that matter to us, or we are creating drama. There is no gray area. And it's a nuance of that. We are either resolving our fear-based perception of ourselves, our fear-based perception of life and how life is, or we are living and leading from a creational paradigm. Who am I being in this renewed version of myself? What is that to be of service to? Who is that to be of service to? In what new ways am I to be of service on a daily basis? This is the invitation. This is how we transition and experience a fundamental shift in identity. This is how we experience what my client said yesterday. I thought I was supposed to feel fearful of the unknown, but I realized it wasn't fear. It's actually play. Here I am again interrupting the episode that I created in full flow, because I've just discovered as I am watching it that it is so rich that there are just so many concepts. So I'm going to break this stream of consciousness flow up once again and dedicate this episode to the concept of what I heard when I was driving home and I was semi-recording my own voice out, but also hearing a download around the concept that when we have come to full and complete resolution around the things that we have withheld and resisted and been in denial and in half-truths, and our vessel is empty, that we are then to firmly place our energy, focus, and attention on a paradigm of trust, faith, and grace. I have to say, in 2022, the theme that arrived in 2022 was the theme of overflow, because in 2021, the theme of nothing but miracles just brought so much overflow. And then I decided that I wanted to embed that theme and integrate it even further. So 2022 became about overflow. And I remember hearing the words and actually having the conscious experience of, for the very first time, at least consciously, that grace was doing the heavy lifting. And here we are again. Once we've participated in life and we've fully fronted up, we're being asked again to experience that premise that grace does the heavy lifting on behalf of us. But only if we allow ourselves to firmly plant our mind, our spirit, our focus, our energy in the paradigm of trust, faith, and grace. Thanks for listening. I look forward to you hearing the next podcast episode, which was the continuation of what I was hearing and words that I have never actually heard before, and they are pretty cool. See you then. Bye.